Welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is The Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. New right-wing conservative outrage of the day. Oh my goodness, hair on fire. The Biden administration said liberal world order. Oh my God. End of society as we know it. Oh, conservative world losing their mind. And what's interesting is watching the left kind of play into it. Oh my gosh, oh, that's not what he meant. Just shut up already. Stop with the right-wing outrage candy. Because you know what we're doing? We fall into this. Oh, they're outraged. There's the liberal world order. No, if liberal world order means fighting a fascist like Putin and standing up for democracy, then, well, maybe we should be doing that. Nobody's questioning the fact that the voices pushing this garbage, pro-Putin. These are the folks who say, no, we shouldn't be doing anything helping the Ukrainians fend off the Russians. No, we shouldn't do anything. No, we should give them nothing. No support, nothing. No. How come nobody calls them out for that? And remember, these are supposed to be the people who believe in democracy. These are the people who are supposed to be, pro-military. Because understand, Putin's not just going to stop in Ukraine. No. He wants to get the old band back together. Which is why Europe's coming together going, uh-oh, bad. We've got to do something. And yeah, they have to do something too. But we have to play a part in this. And to watch the right-wing outrage machine talk about, oh my gosh, inflation, the inflation's so bad. Like it only affects us. I get tons of emails from people. How come I never hear you talk about gas prices, huh? Talk about gas prices. Talk about the fact that we haven't done anything over the last 30 years to get off the stuff. I've been saying for all the years I've been doing this gig, hey, wouldn't it be a great idea if we had alternative transportation? Wouldn't public transit be a good idea? Get me out of my car, get me to work where I need to go, help me take trips in ways that are, I don't know, so I'm not a slave to the pump? No, we can't talk about that. No, liberal world order. I mean, I gotta be 50 emails from people going, what are you going to say about that, huh? I'm not going to say anything about it because it's not worth being outraged over. What you should be outraged over is the fact that the Republican Party, the party of Putin, what you should be outraged over is we had a former president who wanted his number 2 hung, wanted to have the armed insurrectionists closer so he could get a better photo op, who we now see actually did kind of. If you look at the video, there was some scuffling going on in that car. Kind of maybe did in his own way try to go after the front seat of the car. Now, who knows what that meant, but there was movement. And again, the lie, very predictable, and we fall for it every single time because it's what we do. And they know this, which is why they lie so freaking always. And, we don't talk about, why is our supply chain broken? Why is inflation happening? We just go, it's Joe Biden's fault. You go, no, it's not Joe Biden's fault. It's 40 years of horrible policy. It's 40 years of supply-side voodoo Reaganomics. It's 40 years of pro-business, conservative, neoliberal governance. It's 40 years of let the smart people run things. Let corporate America have all the control. Let mass consolidation happen. Yeah, let them buy each other up. Let the big fish eat the little fish, because that's capitalism, Rick. You know that. It's the natural order of things. The strong survive. Yeah, and then what happens when the strong survive? They bully everybody else. And that's what happened. Congratulations, we're now being bullied by capitalism. And this is what's going on. And so I get emails from people going, hey, how come Joe Biden isn't doing anything about this or about that? Or you go, and exactly how do you expect that to happen? Maybe learn how our political system works and then go, hey, maybe that's why that isn't happening. I had somebody email me today, how come Democrats and Joe Biden haven't overturned the bad free trade deals from the 80s and 90s. Because there's a lot of other stuff going on. But I would love you to come join the coalition of people who want to change the world in a more positive direction, because this is an important issue too. Yeah, I'm with you. Let's undo the horrible of the 80s and 90s with our trade policy. Let's reshore manufacturing. Let's bring that back together. Yeah, do I have a problem that the Democratic Party is no longer the party of working people? Yeah. Do I have a problem that the Republicans are trying to pivot to project that they might be interested in, pretending like they care about working people? Yeah, because I'm afraid we're stupid enough to fall for it. That's what the problem I have is. I've had people go, well, we're putting all this effort into abortion. How about we put it into, I don't know, bringing our jobs back? Yeah, I'm with you. But we can do both. See, this is the great thing about having a human brain. It's capable of doing more than one thing. I believe that. Fully believe that. Problem is the right is so much better at this. They're so much better funded, so much more organized, so much more on task, if you will. The left, full of cause heads. And I go back to this. Everybody's got a cause. Everybody's pushing their issue, their one thing, and not getting that they overlap. And I'm hoping we are in this moment where I think a lot of people are starting to go, wait a second, we're all under attack. I'm hoping that this is where we go. Because understand, abortion is not my issue. Abortion is not an issue I like talking about. Abortion is not an issue I've ever wanted to talk about. Abortion is not an issue that I like to even know that exists. But I understand how it overlaps into so many other things. I understand how it affects my daughters. I understand how it's going to affect the next generation. I understand how it's going to affect the workplace. I understand how it's going to affect the future of this country and the future of movement across states. The division of our country. It's an important issue. It's a good place to go, hey, maybe we can bring other people into this. Same thing with the labor issue. Labor is a big issue. Brings a lot of people in. Good way to build coalitions, to get out of our silos and talk to other people. Now, understand, there are a number of people who are fives, and I deal with fives very, very simply. I ignore them. The fives, they send me, when you make a declarative statement, you're a moron, and all right, thanks, bye. I don't have time for you. But for people who are saying, hey, we need to change things. Hey, this is something I see is wrong, but here, this is a direction we need to go. There's an opportunity for conversation and to get people together. This is a moment where the attacks are coming fast and furious from every direction. And this Supreme Court are activist judges. Remember that? Remember when the right made that, when the conservatives made that their rallying cry? Activist judges. They want kids to get educations. They want women to have choice. They want families to have choice. They want kids to have food, those activist judges. Now we're going to force women to have children that, they can't afford and we're not going to take care of. Well, not all of them anyway. A certain chosen few will be okay. The rest will just be cheap labor. And for those who remember Tom DeLay, remember the Hammer? Former Speaker of the House, disgraced, he gave a little spiel a number of years back on the abortion issue, because again, this has been their focus for a very long time, and abortion being part of their agenda, can do a bunch of different things and are. Oh, just wait. During his spiel, he went on to say, if abortion were illegal, and understand this is the thinking, how many of those white babies would we have, and how many of those would be out picking cotton and picking fruits and vegetables and picking things in the fields, and we wouldn't need those people south of the border. We wouldn't need the immigrants because we'd have enough cheap labor right here at home. Homegrown cheap labor. And you go, gee, that sounds like an agenda. And it is an agenda. And when you look at what our Supreme Court is going to do, and look at from the frame of how this is going to affect you and your family, how it's going to affect us in the working class. This is a massive transfer of power An enormous transfer of power from we the people, working people like you and me, to the handful, to the very wealthy, the well-connected, the very powerful. That's what the EPA case was. That's what the abortion rulings was. Because understand, do you really think, do you think, come with me on this. Do you think a congressman, I don't know, maybe one from Tennessee, who knocks up his mistress, do you think he's going to want her to going to have that child and ruin his political career? Or is he going to figure out how to quietly usher her out of the country or to a state where it's a safe haven, where get the care that she wants and needs? How do you think that's going to work out? All the while in public pointing his finger at that poor single mother going, you. It's the world we're in, man. And it's horrible. Now, some good news. President Biden's approval rating has gone up. He's up to 40%, which is way above Congress. In Congress, their approval rating is usually somewhere around syphilis or bed bugs, down around 19% approval for Congress. The Supreme Court has their approval rating dropping a little below Joe Biden's. Curiously enough, gee, who knew when you do unpopular things like say everyone can have guns and carry them concealed and no more choice, no more privacy for you women, that their popularity would go down 36% of job approval. And that 36% number seems to keep popping up. Right around the Trump support number, right around I would argue right around the crazy part of the country. I'm going to go with that number. About 36%. Those are our fives. The rest of the folks we can move on from. So I got a lot to get to, a lot to talk about today. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. I'm going to take a quick break, right back on the other side. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. If you missed any portion of the program, podcast, make sure you grab that wherever you get your favorite podcast. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment or two. Love to see that as well. Quick break. Right back. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1922. That was the day that railroad workers across the United States walked off the job. During World War I, the railroads had been nationalized by President Woodrow Wilson. Seen as a vital cog of the war machine, the railroads were to be kept running no matter what. Because they were essential to the war effort, this gave railroad workers leverage. They won the 8-hour workday and improved working conditions. But when the war ended, railroads went back under private control. The seat at the table with management quickly was pulled out from under labor. The private owners eliminated Sunday and holiday overtime pay. Then wages were slashed for many railroad workers. The railroad companies promised the Big Four unions that no further cuts were coming. These included the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers, the Brotherhood of Firemen and Engineermen, the Order of Railroad Conductors, and the Brotherhood of Railroad Trainmen. A strike vote was held across the industry. The Big Four voted not to strike, but the other unions decided to walk off the job. The response by the companies and the government was swift and brutal. A federal court issued an injunction against the strikers. They were prohibited from even talking about the strike to the press. Thousands of company gun thugs and National Guard troops were mobilized against the strikers. 10 workers were killed. With both guns and the courts lined up against them, the railroad workers did not stand much of a chance. The strike was defeated. The failed strike showed the importance of building worker solidarity across job type if labor had any hope of standing up to the bosses. Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Check out our website, thericksmithshow.com. Questions, comments, something on your mind, you can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. So, interesting little bit. You know how the cons are saying, no, well, we're going to stop at Roe. We're not going to go any further. No, it's just we're going to return it to the states. It's not a federal ban. Even though Pence has come out and said that he wants a federal ban on abortions, and the Republican leadership has come out. Yeah, we want to federalize this, even though we believe in states' rights. Never mind. Don't look behind the curtain. Evidently, Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt has vowed that any of you local people, because remember, Republicans are supposed to believe in local governance. They're against the idea of big government intrusion. Now, the Attorney General, which again, this is why Republicans have gone to the state level and have taken over attorney generals and state legislatures so they can impose their will on you and me. But they're saying, look, what Eric Schmidt is saying is if any city or county or anywhere in Missouri uses 1 red cent of tax money on abortions, he's going to sue them. He's going to sue them. Now, from what I understand, again, this is what conservatives do amazing. It's really incredible at how forward thinking they are. Because it's my understanding that, well, they don't do this. There's nowhere that this is happening. This is where conservatives are brilliant in setting a discussion, going, they're going to start using tax dollars they're going to kill the babies with your money, and get people all lathered up in the panties, knowing it isn't happening and it's not going to happen. But they get to make these declarative statements. They get to start an issue. They get to get people all riled up for what is not happening and not a big deal. They're making a huge thing. Think about the transgender sports thing. What we're talking about, a handful of cases across the country, and you've got the entire country losing their mind on the political right over what is really nonsensical. We're talking about a handful of cases. Now, the hope is that the sane, rational, for instance, my eldest daughter dragged my other 2 kids to an abortion protest today. Good on her. Finally, it's taken it. I could never get her. I used to drag her to everything. I could never get her active. This has activated even my daughter, who had no political interest whatsoever. Even with me doing what I do, nothing. I had taken her to rallies. We've met Congress people. We've met presidential candidates. She's had access to all this stuff. Not a concern in the world. This issue is different. This issue's personal. This issue's got her looking forward to voting. And I think her generation fired up in ways that I think the Republican dog going to kind of be worried about. And you look at the latest AP NORC poll saying, this abortion issue and women's rights kind of growing as an issue among people, kind of important. Oops, I think you smacked the hornet's nest and probably could end up paying the cost, because Republicans aren't going to be able to stop. They can't just take this win. No. They got to go all the way. For instance, Mean Gene Schmidt, Ohio State Representative. Remember Mean Gene? She's the one who said no rape, no incest. You got to have the kid because it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Yes, that 12-year-old being raped by her stepfather or uncle, or it's an opportunity for her to. I don't know what the hell that is, but it's an opportunity according to Mean Gene. But she has said that she's entertaining the debate whether to outlaw birth control. This is a very powerful state representative in Ohio, former congresswoman. They're not going to stop with just this. Now, here's the other part of this. They need the outrage. They need the anger. They need to rile their base. I'm looking at Michigan, much like Missouri. I'm looking at Michigan. They got a gubernatorial candidate who, again, wants attention. And I'm not mentioning his name just because not giving him attention. But he did have a bunch of House Republicans with him. They announced a new piece of legislation that they say is going to empower parents to be able to sue their schools and expose the outrage of teachers exposing their children to drag shows. Because I'm thinking there was one. I think one idiotic teacher that said, "Hey, I think we'll have a drag show as a school function," which I don't understand. I think it's stupid. That happened just not too far from here, from what I understand. This now has given the entire conservative movement the opportunity to now say it's happening everywhere. We have to stop this invasion of drag shows into our schools. And they're proposing a $10,000 fine. And they're proposing parents be able to sue the school district, I think it's for $10,000. So it's kind of like a bounty hunter thing. So if you're keeping an eye on your kid's school and you catch them having drag shows, or what you construe a drag show, you can win $10,000. It could be the $10,000 drag show conviction prize. This is what they do masterfully. Again, happened once somewhere, maybe, and they blow it into this huge, it's the end of the world. And we can't keep falling for this. We can't keep justifying what they do. We've got to be thinking in the same vein of, hey, how do we make sure that we push policies that are going to make people's lives better? This is where, I look at New York right now. New York is moving forward on a piece of legislation that's going to get, they've moved forward, they're going to try and get abortion rights in their state constitution. And I'm like, that's great. You know when you should have done that? Oh, I don't know, 1978? Should have done that, I don't know, anytime in the last, 50 years? But good on you for thinking about it now. Good on you for going in that direction now. And finally, need to get better at this game. Need to get better at the messaging. Need to stop falling in the pitfalls and need to move forward and explain why. That's nonsense. It's like oh my gosh, there are people who want to be cats and we're putting litter boxes in classrooms. And for 6 hours, everyone was losing their mind over litter boxes in classrooms, only to find out no litter boxes in classrooms. They lied to us again and again and again. They lie to us all the time. And there's never any accountability. Back in the old days, and I kind of remember it, when you would lie to a reporter, that was a bad thing. You didn't usually recover from it. Now it seems, especially from our friends on the political right, lying is stock in trade. If you don't lie enough, you're out. Bizarre, strange times. And again, I blame us. We got to get better at this. Love to hear your thoughts. Email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Max Burns is going to be here to share some thoughts on the most recent outrage, something I'm kind of upset about. Stick around. Back after this. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1929. That was the day 1,800 streetcar drivers and motormen walked off the job at New Orleans Public Service. The Amalgamated Association of Street and Electric Railway Employees, Division 194, had been in contract negotiations for months. They demanded higher wages, a closed shop, and an end to arbitrary discharges. The company was looking to bust the Amalgamated with the creation of a company union. For the first few days, the strike was quiet. But then, on July 5th, the company brought in strikebreakers. 10,000 union members and their supporters gathered to stop scab service. The company attempted to run a lone streetcar down Canal Street. Immediately, it was pelted with bricks and stones. The scab driver bailed. Another 4 cars attempted to leave the car barn. Pitched battles raged for hours with police and scabs. 2 union men were shot and killed by scabs and hundreds more injured. Trade unions throughout the city threatened a general strike. The strike raged on for 2 months. Throughout the summer, trolleys were burned to the ground, tracks destroyed, switches cemented in place. As the weeks wore on, conditions became more desperate. That's when Clovis and Beanie Martin, former Division 194 conductors, decided to help out. They had since left public transit to open the Martin Brothers coffee stand and restaurant. They declared to their former union brothers, quote, "We are with you, heart and soul. We are with you till hell freezes over." They offered free supersized sandwiches for the poor boys. The strikers would eventually win some of their demands. The sandwiches would become a standard in New Orleans cuisine, better known as the Po' Boy. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at laborhistoryin2.
What's the most damning thing about America's healthcare system? The system. While our doctors, nurses, and technicians are among the best in the world, the system itself is not even designed for care, but for the constant expansion of profits for insurance giants, drug makers, hospital chains, system managers, financiers, and other voracious components of the medical industry. For starters, ponder that term, medical industry. The ethical essence of healthcare is that it's a human right, essential to every person and to the common good. But corporate elites now claim to own our health by shriveling the concept of care to just another product available to those who can pay whatever monopolistic industrialists demand. But this rationing of care meant the industry was leaving a mass market of millions of patients untapped. So industry bean counters made a critical adjustment. Lower prices? Don't get silly. Instead, the system is pushing medical debt as the ticket to care. So you come in sick or injured, scared, dazed, and suddenly you're hooked up to a long-term medical payment plan. A recent survey by the Kaiser Family Foundation revealed that more than 100 million Americans, including 41% of all adults, are in hock because of the skyrocketing costs of the so-called care industry. This includes debt that patients owe directly to the system, plus money borrowed from family or friends or put on credit cards. An analysis in 2019 estimated that families were being hit with at least $195 billion in payments for medical borrowing, a number driven dramatically higher since the pandemic. As one doctor angrily said of industrial health care, debt is no longer just a bug in our system, it is one of the main products. We have a healthcare system almost perfectly designed to create debt. This is Jim Hightower saying, how sick is that?
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So we're going to file this one under the, hey, thanks, Joe Manchin. Evidently, the governor of Kentucky rightfully outraged, as I am as well. This is one of those things where I go, Joe Biden, Joe, if you're listening, why? Part of me goes, I get it. When you can't control the people in your party to do what you need to get done, if you can't move your agenda, you do have to make deals with the devil. And evidently, this idea that, again, another moment of Democrats playing checkers and Mitch McConnell playing chess. There is a deal, from what I understand, to appoint an anti-abortion Republican to a federal judgeship in Kentucky in exchange for something, not quite sure what it is yet. So I'm not really 100% sure, but I don't care what it is. Unless it's bringing Roe back and inculcating it into law for all of eternity, there's no way to justify putting a anti-abortion judge on a federal bench for lifetime. Just my thoughts. And we're here to share some thoughts on this and some other stuff that we can bang around. I've asked our good friend Max Burns to come talk with us. Max is a Democratic strategist and also a columnist over at the Daily Beast. You can check out his work over at thedailybeast.com. Max, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having me.
So what do you make of this? Look, I saw the story. I read through it. I'm like, boo! I mean, that was basically my reaction, going, this Joe Manchin, because this is Joe Manchin's fault.
No, it absolutely is. And in a sick kind of way, you almost have to give Mitch McConnell some credit. I mean, Democrats control 2/3 of the federal government. And the guy's still appointing judges. I mean, Republicans control the legislative agenda in the majority, they control it in the minority. And there's just no sense among Kristen Sinema, among Joe Manchin, that all of this short-term self-interest is leading to a whole system collapse here. Like the gain to Joe Manchin is a couple years where we're losing the judiciary here for a generation.
Losing. I would say that ship has sailed. I would say it's
maybe
already
I'm being
lost.
a little optimistic.
No, I say it's sailed because you look at the Supreme Court rulings here recently, all bad. And look, I think next term things get even crazier and even worse because, well, I think the signaling that's going out from people like Clarence Thomas of calling for all of the things that most people thought were long decided, long settled law. He said, look, hey, crazy people, we're open for business. Bring your insanity. We're willing to throw out 100 years of decided law for you. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, when these Republicans said that they believed that all these precedents were settled law, maybe settled law just didn't mean what we thought it meant because it's going out the window with remarkable speed. I mean, we've seen in just the last 2 weeks multiple decisions bringing prayer back into public schools, Miranda rights being weakened. We've seen abortion overruled. We've seen the EPA essentially gutted in its ability to regulate greenhouse gases. And next session, they're going to come for a lot of other things. They're going to come for gay marriage issues. They're going to take another shot at weakening Miranda or throwing it out entirely. I mean, we are looking at a rollback. Most Americans won't recognize the world that they now have to live in.
Yeah, I mean, but I have friends who are like, yeah, this is the world we want because this is the religious zealot world. This is the Christian Sharia law world that I was worrying about 10 years ago. While, the Rick Santorums of the world were screaming around, Islamo-fascist, Sharia law. I'm going, yeah, I'm as afraid of them as I am of you and your ilk. And now, well, they're firmly in control. The American Taliban has taken over our Supreme Court.
And there is, to an extent, I mean, Democrats in Washington treated these like things that were never going to happen. They fundraise off of losing abortion, but there were not that many Democrats in leadership who really felt that abortion was acutely at risk. I mean, they were writing op-eds saying, calm down, Roe versus Wade isn't going anywhere. I mean, well, oops, that was a bad call. And now we're met with total silence. I mean, this is a Republican Party that has organized for decades to fulfill these kind of big, ambitious reshapings of America. And Democrats have taken 2 weeks just to figure out what to say about it. I mean, they are quite frankly outclassed in this kind of strategic business.
Yeah. No, it took them 2 weeks to figure out what kind of fundraising email to send out because I got a lot of them. I got tons of fundraising email saying, hey, now we're going to fight. So let me ask you this, because there's going to be a shift on the right of all of those anti-abortion groups who have now caught the car and are eating the car. All of that money being spent on the anti-abortion movement is going to have to go somewhere. So they're going to move those people into another horrible cause. But doesn't this now give the left their kind of money machine of, hey, now we're going to fight for this? And because I guess I'm just being a little cynical that it just seems like it's really just about the money machines.
Well, I mean, it's a fundraising opportunity. More importantly, it's an organizing opportunity. But currently, it's none of those things because we can't even get a unified Democratic message that this is a crisis. We've essentially heard for the last week the White House shooting down idea after idea from activists and abortion advocates in the states. They sent Kamala Harris out to humiliate herself, pushing a line on abortion that they immediately changed course on. This is not the way you mobilize a base. It's a way you show a base that you don't care about their issues. And unless we start talking about this and, more importantly, start acting on it, this is going to be a massive missed opportunity.
Yeah. Can we not send Kamala Harris anywhere?
It's a shame. It really is. I mean, she's trying her best to be a team player on this team and is, quite frankly, being sent out without clear guidance on what the White House believes. And I would be furious. I imagine she's not too pleased.
You see, but this is one of these moments where, like politics aside, this is where working people have to be stepping forward. this next election is that important, and this is where I think the grassroots organizing has to happen in the workplace, in the streets. Because understand, as you've laid out, there have been a bunch of horrible decisions. I'm hoping that people are finally, raising their heads and going, wait a minute, they're talking about fundamental structural change of our entire way of life and our entire society. Maybe we should not let that happen. And I'm hoping they'll come out to vote in November.
Yeah, this is a place where we can take a line from the labor movement right now. I mean, we're in a renaissance of labor organizing, and it's largely driven by young people, people of color, who have no previous sort of connection to this, but have built these coalitions that have won. And we ask in Washington, you hear Democrats ask, well, how can we organize around this issue? But they're not asking that question to the Democratic base that's doing successful organizing. I mean, the roadmap is here. We need to get outside of this Beltway media bubble and actually empower these people to make change on behalf of the party.
Well, understand. See, my view has always been the people who are in office, they're not leaders. They're tools. They're our representatives. They should be doing what we're telling them to do. And this is where the right is very different in their thinking. They build grassroots organizing. You go back to the Tea Party stuff. They built these Tea Party groups. I still know of that Glenn Beck's 912 group. There are people who still meet in that stuff because they figured out how to bring people together, and they did it how? I still remember an interview back from the 90s. A guy named Ralph Reed. You may remember his name, Christian Coalition guy. He was asked, how did you and Jerry Falwell build the moral majority or whatever their crazy group was called? And he pulled out the SWOC handbook, the Steelworkers Organizing Committee's handbook, and he said, there it is. We've just basically followed labor's organizing principles. We talk to people, we bring people together, we organized at the grassroots, and it's what they did. They took over the churches, they took over the halls, they took over where people gathered, and that's how they organized. Hello, we can do that again.
That is exactly how Democrats win. I mean, if you think about it, every major successful progressive initiative from the Obama campaign on forward to Stacey Abrams now in Georgia, very openly says that she borrowed from labor organizing tactics and relational organizing and interest-based organizing and friend recruitment. And that won. I mean, that flipped the state of Georgia to Joe Biden, something that we may never see that state go for a Democrat again for the rest of our lives. So when we're asking how do we organize on abortion, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to go to the people who have been doing this and have them energize this party, because clearly the people at the top are out of ideas.
Yeah, no, you need to get out in the streets where the people are. That's what you need to be doing. It's that simple. You're listening to the Rick Smith Show here with Max Burns, Democratic strategist, columnist over at the Daily Beast. Make sure you check out his work at thedailybeast.com. I want to change topics real quick. I guess Merrick Garland's going under the knife, having surgery. Enlarged prostate. Is this going to hold him back from not making a decision on what happens with the January 6th committee? And I want to talk about that, but thoughts on Garland?
Yeah, I mean, this is really going to slow down the rapid pace of the Department of Justice's action, I guess, the large amount of nothing that's happened. But like, I wish him well, but like when he gets back, maybe he'll decide it's time to move on some of this clear evidence that's being presented every single day. I mean, it seems to just not be reaching the DOJ.
Yeah, but it's reaching the people, man. The Cassidy Hutchinson's testimony, the bombshell testimony that was reached. What were they saying? Like 15 million people, well beyond what they thought it was going to, and that's not even counting the online numbers. Because I watched online. I know most of the people that I know watched via different social media platforms, so they're not even counted. We're just talking about what was on the TV box there. But thoughts?
It's beautiful to me. Like this hearing, especially with Ms. Hutchinson, was incredible. And we're essentially leveraging Republicans' greatest addiction against them. They've become a party addicted to ratings, that the only thing that matters is how good your Fox News ratings are. And now we're using that tactic essentially in a bipartisan way to put forward these hearings to huge audiences. And I mean, what Cassidy Hutchinson said was mind-boggling. It was like a movie. And every couple of minutes, you would think it could not get crazier. And then the president is trying to steer a limousine with one hand and choking a guy with another. And people want to reelect this person. I mean, that is baffling to me.
But here's the thing, and this is what bothers me. That's what got the attention. The ketchup on the wall and him lunging in the car. That's what got all the attention. That's what the news media was focused on. Not on the fact that he thought Mike Pence deserved to be hung, Max. Not on the fact that he knew there were people in the crowd who were armed to the teeth, and he wanted to take the magnetic little displays down because he wanted people closer so that he could have a photo op. That, yep. Not so much. Ketchup on the wall, outraged. Got to do something about the ketchup, but the real blood in the streets, not so much.
Just from a factual position, it's damning. I mean, we now know from multiple sources that are under oath that the president knew people were armed, didn't care, knew that they weren't there for him, wanted to make sure that they knew to go to the Capitol, and encouraged people to tell them, since they were choosing not to attend his rally because they would have to surrender their weapons. So they thought, I'll just listen from outside and then go attack the government. And sitting in this limousine, we forget that the reason that he lunged for the wheel is because he was not being allowed to go join the rioters at the Capitol. He wanted to enter the Capitol building, walk into the House of Representatives chamber, which was already under siege at that point, and essentially give a campaign speech to the insurrectionists about how brave they were. I mean, that is a coup d'etat.
Yeah, and I wish the Secret Service would have let him do it.
I would love to hear from the Secret Service, and I imagine that we will. We just saw tonight news stories coming out from D.C. that these stories about Trump attacking his Secret Service agent, wanting to go rally the rioters to overturn the election, were circulating within the Secret Service for months.
Yeah.
And off the record, and that several reporters tried and failed to get additional people to share that on the record. Now that Cassidy Hutchinson has done it, I mean, that changes the game significantly.
But again, it's then the lie that came out. You had, the people give, no, that didn't happen, trying to discredit her. And look, then the actual truth, takes much longer to get out. We're just. So let me ask you as we move forward, because I'll tell you, I was a big detractor of the committee. I thought they took too long. I thought they should have been doing this well before. I thought it should have started on January 7th. I got to tell you, the way this is played out, the way this has been laid out, they have been methodical in their presentation. They have been thorough. They have done this in a way that I think probably only Liz Cheney could have done. I don't think any Democrats have had any input into the messaging that's gone into this, but I think they have prosecuted this in a very methodical way, in a very compelling way, and I'm actually spellbounding. I'm waiting for the next one. How much worse is it going to get? I think the bar is now raised even higher than the last one.
No, it is, and now these hearings are going into July, so we know that the GOP won't be able to outrun this. And you can see that it's having an effect. Republicans won't admit it, but, for example, Ginny Thomas said she would love to come and testify publicly. And then Cassidy Hutchinson started talking, and suddenly Ginny Thomas's lawyers said, change of plans. She's not coming anymore. And this raises the pressure on Mark Meadows specifically to come and testify, especially if the Secret Service comes to testify and corroborates these claims. I don't see how some of these people get out of having to ultimately testify and make this case.
Yeah, I got to think that the rats are going to start scurrying very soon, or they're going to have to. I got to think that the rats are going to have to start looking for their exit or looking for their pardons. And look, my congressman, Scott Perry, he was one of those people allegedly looking for a pardon, and I don't doubt it. When you're in the middle of a treasonous act, you probably should look for an off-ramp. And this looks like a good one. I just love the fact that Trump didn't offer them a lifeline.
No, there was such an incredible moment where Cassidy Hutchinson and the White House counsel are trying to reach Mark Meadows to discuss the president needing to condemn this insurrection. And Mark Meadows tells them essentially, I need to get back to you. I'm writing my pardon request right now. And I mean, that's never something you want to hear at the end of your workday.
That should go on his tombstone. Writing my pardon request. Pardon denied. Here's the thing, and this is where we'll end this. It would be laughable. This would be like a Keystone Cops for treason, like a good dummies, a treason for dummies novel. If it weren't so serious, and if it didn't cost lives, and it didn't put our country in such peril, didn't put the globe in such peril, it would all be laughable if it weren't so deadly.
Yeah, and I laugh because I still am not convinced that the Department of Justice will take this step. I mean, they keep making clear that they are very nervous about being perceived as a politically motivated trial, essentially, of charging a former president. And as long as they're more concerned about the politics than the law, all we can do is laugh, because the people with power do not seem to see this as a crisis.
Yeah, and they know they're never going to be held accountable. But Max, I appreciate the time. As always, great stuff. Look forward to having you back again real soon.
Thanks for having me.
Our good friend Max Burns. Make sure you check out his work over at thedailybeast.com. We'll get links out on social media. You can take a look at that. Going to take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. Remember, if you got a thought, question, comment, email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com, or check out the podcast. Never miss an episode. Subscribe, like, share. Right back. Stick around. I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1983. That was the day that began a 3-year struggle by copper workers in Arizona. The contract for 13 unions in the mining towns that included Clifton and Morenci had expired. Many of the workers were Latino. The employer, Phelps Dodge, used every tactic they could to break the strike. The workers and their families were harassed, evicted from their homes, under constant police surveillance, and arrested. Even though the contract guaranteed continued medical benefits, the company stopped health care for those on strike. To make matters worse, the company brought in scabs to replace the striking miners. On August 19th, the governor of Arizona sent a massive military convoy, including tanks and helicopters, to the work sites. Despite this overwhelming show of force against them, the strikers persevered. The wives set up a free medical clinic and organized to provide food and other needs for the striking families. Soon they joined their husbands, fathers, and brothers on the picket lines. The women traveled to give speeches and raise money. Finally, after 3 long years of struggle, the workers in the mines, predominantly the scabs brought in by the company, voted to decertify the union, thus ending the strike. Barbara Kingsolver wrote a moving book on the struggle called Holding the Line: Women in the Great Arizona Mine Strike of 1983. In the preface of the book, she warns, "Watch your back, America. Take civil liberties for granted at your own risk. Trust in leaders who arrive into power by means of wealth, and see who they protect when push comes to shove. What happened in Arizona could happen again, and it will, somewhere to someone. It will happen again and again if we do not open our eyes and believe what we see." Labor History in 2 brought to you by the Illinois Labor History Society and The Rick Smith Show. For more information, go to laborhistoryin2.com.
You're listening to The Rick Smith Show, where working people come to talk.
So if you need something to be outraged about, because the right does this masterfully. Today's outrage was the liberal world order. Like I said, I got tons of emails from crazy people. What do you want to say about that? Evidently, though, in Texas, there were a group of educators that proposed to the Texas State Board of Education. Now, understand, the reason that this is important is Texas is like the driver of all textbooks in this country, because they're such a huge buyer of them. So they get outweighted influence over what gets into textbooks, which is why people pay attention to the Texas State Board of Education. But they proposed to the board that slavery should be taught not as slavery. Now, again, this is for second grade social studies, but not slavery, because slavery has bad things because it makes people feel bad, but as involuntary relocation. Let that sink in for a second. Yes, the Trail of Tears. That was involuntary. Oh, Jesus. I wonder how my religious friends would feel if well, Jesus wasn't crucified. He wasn't, forced to, to carry the cross. He was involuntarily, pathed towards being, I don't know, involuntarily, nailed to a piece of wood. Wow. Crazy. I mean, there are moments when you go, how far will they go? They'll sanitize anything. Because, again, we have to feel. I learned about slavery in school. I don't think it scarred me for life. I didn't feel discomfort that I remember. But this idea that we have to stop our children from feeling discomfort is kind of silly, kind of insane. And this is where I think we as society, have to have some pretty hard conversations with each other. And I don't know that we can do that. Because while the right points their finger at the left and goes, "Oh, you and your feelings," the right, they're just as big as snowflakes as the left. And for me, we got to toughen up and have real conversations and examine our history in ways that are going to be uncomfortable, and talk about reality, and talk about how we do move forward as a multicultural country. Because guess what? We are. Like it or not, we're a multicultural country. You're going to have to figure out how to deal with multiple types of people. And we've done that. In the past, we've done that. And we've done well. When we've followed some pretty simple things. And I go back to my grandparents' generation. My grandfather said, "Don't worry about me, worry about yourself. Take care of your business, I'll take care of mine, we'll be good. Don't you stick your nose into my stuff, I won't stick my nose into your stuff, we'll be all right." Problem is, we got too many do-gooder, crazy people out there who they point their finger and say, "You have to do what I want you to do," and they get offended when you don't. I've always believed life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Pursue your happiness. As long as it doesn't infringe on mine, we're good. If we did a little bit more of that, we'd be all right. Love to hear your thoughts, though. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. Tell me what you think. Also, make sure you grab the podcast. Never miss an episode. Subscribe, like, share. Wherever you get your favorite podcasts, it will most certainly be there.
So while the Supreme Court case is very important, it's not the only game in town.
Right-wing Supreme Court strikes major blow to EPA's ability to regulate carbon emissions.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5